No flying tackles. No flying tackles, and do not blow your horn. No kidnapping either. It's one of those things if you're going to drool at a distance. And please have brought a napkin and or towel.
What about bear house?
What about what?
Damn right.
No bear house. You see, we've got a simple rule of thumb here. Don't reach out and touch him. If he decides he wants to lean over and give you a hug, that's fine. Just make sure you let go when he does. If he decides that he wants to, if he wants to do a cartwheel down the middle of the aisle, we're going to let him. All I can say is enjoy and take all the pictures because you may never ever get a chance again. No flash photography. At this point, unless further mention, hold on, we're getting clarification.
The official word is there's no problem videotaping for private use. Do we have any reporters in here? Okay. Reporters can use this for editorial content. You cannot use this for commercial use. So you can't create Adrian Paul at Dragoncon the DVD. So you can put it up on YouTube and say, look, something happened at Dragoncon. Adrian Paul was there. It was stunning.
And you can say, well, we were on the best track in the world, the American Top 5 fastest track. Hosted by the best moderator.
The best first time moderator.
What I want to do before bringing them out is I want to get all of you guys singing the Princes of the Universe.
One, two, three.
Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe. Here we belong, fighting for survival.
If they get to that point, the line board will be right here. We have a very nice lady right here that will be covering the asking and the answering questions. Keep the line to about 20 or 30 people. Once the line gets back to about right here, just kind of let it rest for a minute. Once it comes back up a little bit, then you can ask it. And please be understanding everybody else, because this guy is awesomely popular, and we want to try and get as many questions in as we can, so please keep it pretty straightforward. Thank you very much.
all the people here today, and I'm really, really happy that Adrian Paul is here. Paul, come on out.
You guys know the theme song. I think you guys better than I do. Well, thank you for that welcome, and warmed up very nicely as well. How many of you are from Atlanta? How many then? I want to thank everybody for coming today, because it's been a long time that Highlander has been on the air, and it's always a surprise to me to see people still wanting to hear me talk. And I know, thank you to Netflix and the Sci-Fi Channel have been running this over and over and over again. But I'm actually able to come back and talk about some of the experiences that I had on the show, answer some of the questions that you obviously still have. I like answering questions, and I will go off into a whole different tangent. And today will be different than the other 2 days. Any of you come to the other 2 days? So I won't bore you too much. So I'm trying to make sure that I say something different. And if I repeat it, it's okay, because there's only about 6 of you that would have heard exactly. So, where do we have the mic? Where's the mic? Oh, fabulous. Okay. Do we have anybody that has to ask me a question? No, this is good. This is good. Go ahead. Pick somebody. I don't mind. Whoever you want to pick. Or if you want to go off into the line, it's easy to do.
Flash went off. Wasn't supposed to happen.
Okay, I'm going
Where's
to
Flash?
this person, but everyone else, please line up.
Do we raise this mic a little? Do you hear me?
It has to be circled.
So
Okay.
usually people don't, the first one panel we had, it was like one person with their hand up and doing it. And then after I started talking, it was like, oh, I think I'll ask him something.
I was wondering if you kept in contact with the other actors you worked with on Highlander, like after all these years?
Yeah, I mean, we all go and do different things. Stan Kirsch has gone off and become an acting teacher. He's doing very well in Hollywood. And Elizabeth Grayson, she's now directing small shorts. She's obviously had a child that took a couple of years off for her. And Peter Wingfield has gone off to become a medical doctor. He's gone back to school. Yeah. He was originally, Peter's background was, he went through medical school, and just when he was going to take his finals, he told his parents, I'm going to become an actor. That went down really well. But now he's like, oh, the industry's changed. As you get older, things change. So he went back and he figures, I'll have at least 20 years as a medical doctor after he's finished his internship. I think he's up in northeast somewhere. I don't know where it is exactly. And Jim Burns is still playing those great blues that he does.
So, I got a question. Say Duncan MacLeod had this mystical being that can bring back one of the following people to life. Richie. Okay, so it would be Richie, Joe, or Connor. Who would Duncan choose?
Oh, now you're making it tough. Oh gosh, I mean, they're all very different entities for him. One was almost like his little brother, another one was like his father, and the other one was his brother. Okay, which one would you bring back? You really make the rest of the family really like, sing them off, like, we should have brought back my brother. I think, I don't know. I mean, there could be only one. Joe didn't fit into that equation, so maybe I'll bring him back.
Sorry.
It doesn't reverb.
I had the great fortune to get a hug from you at a Highlander convention in Denver almost 20 years ago. You have barely aged since then. It's still fantastic. What is your secret to the near immortality?
my answer is to it? My kids, I think. Well, I mean, I was just watching. You know, I have a charity called Peace, Protect, Educate, Aid Children Everywhere, and I do the peace sign a lot. And my daughter, she's 3.5. She just went in yesterday to give me a flower girl at one of our friends' weddings. And she's in her outfit, my wife sends me the picture, and she's standing there like this. And who thought of that? My wife replied, monkey see, monkey do. So I think they are, you know, one of the reasons that keeps me young and healthy, but also I eat relatively healthy. I drink a lot of water, I drink water all day long, and you're made up of water, so I think that does help. Plus the creams.
First of all, thank you so much for coming. This is so exciting. Prior to the show, your level of history knowledge obviously had to have increased during the show. But do you ever get the tendency to answer in first person because you were there?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm quite sure that if I did no, I don't actually answer. I think when I was actually doing Highlander, you know, you kind of tend to create a character that is part who you are, and they write that for you. They tend to have a character in mind, and then when they bring the actor in, he then evolves the character, and they do that. So sometimes you say, yeah, when I was doing such and such, no, I meant when Dragoncon was doing, so you do get mixed up with that, but really, reality and fantasy try not to cross over too often. But you know,
how you doing?
that's my choice. Hi.
I thought you had some of the best fight scenes with Anthony the longest, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how I was creating those fight scenes and working with Anthony.
Well, Anthony's, you know, he's a choreographer. He's done a lot of stuff. He was one of the guys that has done a lot of different training, a lot of sword training. He's also used the whip a lot. He taught Michelle Pfeiffer and Catwoman how to use the whip. And Anthony, he actually was the one, when we did the show Wednesday, he was the one that would come in and started showing us how to use the espadillada, which is the long Spanish sword with the shorter blade that they used for 400 years. And the Spanish actually were, they were conquistadores. There was a reason why they were called that, because for 400 years they ruled Europe with those two blades. But it's a totally different technique to actually use that blade, because you're not doing this type of thing, you're having to move like this and move around it. The way they train that, we trained like that when we did it was a circle in the middle. And we actually shot that circle in the series, and there's footprints in the circle. The reason for the footprints is that if you hit the footprints within the circle, you know you're on target for your opponent. And that's really difficult, because it's like doing this. Can't even do it. It was tough to do. So learning that was actually in between takes. I was going, okay, cut, okay, now what do we do? Oh yeah, and then I go back. And that's how I learned that fight. But you know, having somebody that knows what they're doing on the other end of it is actually really helpful, because a lot of the time I would have actors that would come in who would want to do all their sword fights, and every actor that did this wanted to do their own sword fight. There's not one that did not. But that didn't mean that they could actually do it. So that was problematic, and that sometimes got me injured in certain takes. So it was great to have somebody like him to work against.
I was wondering which of the characters / co-workers that was on the series so much was probably the hardest to see actually die and leave the series. Like perhaps Amanda or Amy or Joe.
I don't think Amanda died. He just went and stole something or something. You know, it's interesting. I had that question yesterday, and it's different when you actually are with somebody for that amount of time to bring up that emotion or that thing that comes up to you when that person is supposed to die. when you work with them for 5 years, it's easier. I mean, as you said, Connor, Joe, Richie, I mean, they're all people that I spend a lot of time with. I mean, the Connor one was a different experience than it was with Jim Burns. Jim Burns was like my dad. My dad had died, 5 years before. So for me to see him on the floor dying was very easy to conjure up that emotion, not only because I had a personal attachment to it, but also because it was Jim Burns who I'd known for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And now he's dying. So each one was difficult, but I think he was the easiest, if you like, to actually attach to. Richie was obviously, it was in the moment. It was him leaving the show after 5 years, and he was like my little brother. So that was kind of tough because I didn't have a partner after that to hang out with and play jokes with and do all that stuff. And we used to do things like, we'd be in we always played practical jokes Stan and I. And we'd have at lunchtime in France, because the French, we were sitting by the barge, so by the barge they would bring a truck, like a big open area that they put tables in. And, while the French were sitting there trying to smoke, which I didn't allow them to do in lunch time because they hated me for that. I can't smoke, what do you mean? I need to smoke. Literally, I would watch them. They'd be in their life, and I'd turn around, I'd just been cheating, I'd turn around, and like 4 or 5 or 6 of them would have a cigarette stuffed in their mouth, like that with a lighter, waiting for me to leave them. But Stan, one day, Stan and I, we as I said, we do practical jokes, and we were in Hoxton, and I'm sitting like this, and the producer's sitting here, and about 1 or 2 tables back is Stan, and I see Stan look at me like this, and pick up the bread, and do this. And I'm like, I said to my producer, who had his back to me, I said, Stan's about to throw something at me. If he does that, I'm going to take his cream pie and I'm going to slam him with it. No, don't do that. So literally, I'm pretending I'm not noticing Stan, and Stan gets up and goes, whoa, and I'm doing this. I picked it up and I went, wham, hit him, He got up, took the other cream pie, literally there was cream all and I have pictures of it, like hairs, like so Stan was, he was my partner. I had fun with Stan. He's a great guy.
Thanks for coming out, big fan. When they came to you in season 6 with the Ahriman storyline, what did you first think about when you heard it?
It was different. It was Ahriman was an entity. It was weird because a lot of the time Highlander is very grounded in reality. We deal with human emotions, and what it's like the fantasy portion of it is that you can't die for 400 years except your head gets cut off. Ahriman was a totally different thing. It was a spiritual thing. So it's like, are they cutting that boundary too far? I think it did okay, but it was not the norm that Highlander had always been. It was always really grounded in relationships of people, and okay, this is a bad immortal, and I've known him for 400 years, that's the fantasy portion of it, but in reality, the rest of it was very true. We dealt with psychosis, we dealt with hate, we dealt with prejudice, we dealt with all those issues along the way, which are human issues. This was different. So it was, I think it worked, but it was a whole different idea.
Thank you so much for coming out. Through the whole show, the one that got me was in the second season with Tessa. And what I know that sometimes directors don't tell the actors what's going to happen at the end until it happens to get the actual response. And I always wanted to know at what point did you know Tessa was not going to survive that episode?
When I read the script. The funny thing was, and I've told this story before, Alexandra had wanted to be off the show at the end of the first season because she said, when she first came to Vancouver, she'd left Paris. Her boyfriend was there, her family was there, her work had been there, and now she's got to go away for 5 to 6 months and leave them behind. So she felt alone a little bit, so it became hard for her at first. When we got back to Paris, it was a lot easier. But she still wanted to do film. She said, Adrian, you know, I want to do film. I love working with you, but I have to take my career. So, all right. The writers wrote it in, and the fourth episode came along, and she died. And 2-3 years later, she comes back to me, and she said, I cannot believe it. Adrian, everybody knows me from Highlander. Everybody, maybe I should stay on the show. I think that was the undertone for it, because even today even more so, you don't leave a hit show. Highlander was, at that point, not a big show. It had its issues at the beginning. I remember when we first started in Paris, you know, nobody knew what Highlander was. We would go in, and the thing with the British, the bureaucracy there is very, very deep. So to get a permit to go and shoot, they would look at it and go, Highlander? I heard the movie, but what is this? And, you know, the next season they're like, oh, Highlander, yes! You get the permit immediately, you know, so it was different. So it was fun working with friends. I love it.
Where did you enjoy filming more, in the U.S. or across seas?
Well, obviously the two places we shot was France and Canada. Mainly in France was Paris, but I shot a couple of other places, Bordeaux and up in the north part of France for one episode. France was great because it gave Highlander a weight. All we had to do was point the camera and you got 500 years of history, and that was what part of Highlander was all about, was the history. Vancouver was a whole different thing. I mean, Vancouver, the sets and the design of the sets was fantastic. The guy that did that, Steve Gagan, every year he would come up with really new, interesting stuff. And we would recycle sets. We'd build the monastery set, and the next year, or 2 years later, they pull it back out and they put it in as a church. You know, so the inventiveness of doing this was fantastic. But if you're looking at Paris, Paris was always, you didn't have to work that hard to do it. Except working with the French, that was entirely different. You know, we would work different hours. In Vancouver, we would work probably about 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day sometimes. And in Paris, it would be 10. That basically included lunch, the wine, you know, they would have the wine. And that would be, because the French like to do their things in the time they do them. The Americans are much more, Americans, Canadians, same thing. We're much more... I hang my head on that part. Yeah, I think Canadians would like to say that too. They're your cousins, what are you talking about? They're different, they're just different ways of working. But it was fun working on both ends for different reasons. Wish I had a voice like that.
Thank you. Ted Bordoni, Sci-Fi Pulse. My question is, what are your thoughts looking back on the movies that you did post the series, and can we expect another? Thank you.
Are we talking about Highlander?
Yes.
Am I still there? The movies, are we talking the ones I was in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As I said yesterday, there was no Highlander 2. As Panzer Davis that they what? Space? The movies I liked Endgame. I think Endgame was it had its issues, but I think Endgame had a lot of heart to it. And the issue sometimes I find with some of the Highlander movies is the fact that they are going for the big bang rather than the heart of the Highlander really is. The very first Highlander movie had a lot of soul to it, and I was hoping that they would be able to reproduce that in the films that I was involved in. The source was problematic because we only had 3/4 of the script, and I told this story yesterday yesterday or the day before. When I got the script, David Abramowitz, who was the writer of the series, they brought him in to do a script. They gave him the opportunity. He called me and said, I've just delivered it, and I want to read you a couple of the scenes. And he read me it, and I said, well, that's great. I think the relationships are great. It really works. I said, I think this is a really good movie. About a month later, when I got the script, it wasn't the same one. They'd taken it and thrown it out, given me a totally different one. And that one didn't work. And so for 4 months, I sat there with them trying to work out the script. In that time, we were already into pre-production. So by the time we started shooting, we only had 3/4 of the script that we were actually filming. So if you have that, you don't know what your end result is, you're going to have a problem actually delivering it. So to me, I think it didn't fulfill what I had always hoped it would fulfill as, you know, the movie that I really wanted Highlander to be.
Will there be another?
There is another in the works. They're remaking the first movie, from what I understand. And they had Ryan Reynolds attached as the Highlander. Okay, let's discuss this for a minute. I was actually looking the other day at the new Batman. I said, how can he play Batman? In no way he's going to be Batman. It's awful, he's Batman. And then somebody went, okay, let's take the blogs from 2006 when they announced Heath Ledger was going to be Joker. And everybody went, he can't play Joker. What do you mean he can play Joker? And yet he turned out to be one of the best Jokers in the world. So you cannot really have an opinion until you see that actor play that role, because they might surprise you. The new movie they're going to make is still in the process. He's now moved away from it, from what I understand, because it's taken them so long to get it together. I don't know what the process is. I don't think I'm attached to it. We'll see what happens.
First off, I'd like to say that I'm not buying into the fact that you're not immortal, because I have aged.
Trust me, when I get up in the morning.
Secondly, I'd like to ask, when you were playing the Highlander, did you prefer playing the current times or the period pieces?
The great thing about Highlander was that I got to play something different every week. And the flashbacks were so much fun to do, because I could become something different. It wasn't like doing a procedural show whereby you actually had to do the same character, you're just figuring out who killed this person, who the bad guy is, that type of show. Highlander was, each week I could become something slightly different, because he was 400 years old, and being 400 years old, each period of his life was slightly different. He was a warrior at one point, he was a pacifist at another, he was a drunkard at another, he was all these different things, because we all have different portions of our life that we change. And so that was so much fun to do, so I could actually become somebody else each week. So to me, the flashbacks gave me something else to sort of look forward to.
Thank you.
Hi. Big fan. Started watching the show as an escape from motherhood when my son was 3. He grew up.
He's about 6 now, right?
He's 18. He drove me here.
No, you don't.
Big fan of swords. Grew up playing with him. Wondering if you signed one for him.
Sign one for him?
Yes.
Yeah, you come to my table, you have to do that. I don't
Okay.
do that when I get there.
Okay.
Yeah,
What was your favorite flashback?
There were a lot of them. I mean, I always really liked MacLeod when he went back to becoming the Highlander, you know, it was kind of his roots. So, to me, playing, you know, Duncan MacLeod when he went back to his village in Homeland was something I really enjoyed doing, including I directed it. It was even more fun. You know, I had so many, you know, playing Amazing Grace when we did the Grace that she was, it wasn't a huge flashback, but it was fun having that little mustache and teeth. And I give you that sense of, you know, chevalier. So, as I said, it was kind of fun for different reasons, and what other flashbacks were really, really cool? I mean, production-wise, I think the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse was kind of fun to do, because they actually, the one that was the Four Horsemen, the first episode of the two, was actually a camp that they built, and I actually shot part of that too, because I directed the 100th episode, which was the second half of that, and a portion of that episode we shot for the prior episode. So I actually shot part of that for the flashbacks of the episode that they aired prior to that one. So those two were kind of fun. I'm trying to think of any others that, I mean, I had so many. I mean, gosh, I went back to Hitler, I went back to, you know, so many different. But again, each week it was just, I was picking, listen, you know, if you're coming to Dragoncon and dress up once a year, I did it every day. If you want to get a fancy dress party, I'm like, you know what, I kind of done it. So, it was fun to do.
You make acting look effortless, but we know acting is really, really difficult. Will you encourage your children to get into acting?
My daughter's already done the first short film. I would not encourage her to become part of the industry. Because, you know, the funny thing, my wife said to me, when she did her short film, she always did a little short film, it's for free, gives her a resume. I said, great. And when she came back, she said, oh, she had so much time, she was drawing, she went up, they asked her to do this, she went up and did it. It was so good, they gave her cookies, they gave her this, they said, was she okay? They drove her to the set. I said, yeah, that's the problem. Because if you put a kid into that sort of situation, that they feel entitled to all that stuff, then you have a problem. You have to really understand what the parameters are if you put your child in that situation. And if she started getting an attitude, so that answers that question.
We all know you're a great actor, but other than Highlander, what part did you enjoy the most? And if I can follow up with, without acting, what role did you enjoy the most?
I enjoyed The Breed. The Breed was a fun role to play. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a vampire movie that did in 2000. It was fun because it was again set. He was a. I've had this issue. I'll talk about it in a second. But he was set in the 1940s. He was a Jewish vampire, but he turned into a vampire when he was escaping the problems in Poland. And so he had a Polish-English accent, which they kept saying to me, can you listen? We just want you to do your accent. I'm like, dude, the guy lives in Poland, and that's who he was. So his accent was British, but had clips to it. I had to adjust it. Same thing with Highlander. When I did the first season of Highlander, they turned around to me and said, it was about show 16. I had Marlon Ginsberg call me up and go, Adrian, you've got to drop the accent. In the flashback, you've got to drop the Scottish accent. I went, he's called the Highlander. Shouldn't he have Scottish? Well, no, because American audience is not going to understand it. We've got to get, so they kept pushing me, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. She went, I'm the producer. I said, you know, to be honest, you know, it's part of who it is, and, you know, I'm going to get Bill Panson's call. He said, fine, get him to call me. So he called me, and I learned, this is where I learned producing. Because I realized you can't do it from an ego standpoint, you have to do it from some place that comes from here. And I realized from here, that taking that away from Duncan MacLeod is taking away his identity. And I said to Bill, look, I've tried doing it without an accent, and to be totally honest with you, it doesn't work. I don't know who the guy is anymore. And he went, oh, okay. I tell you what, when he comes to America in 1815, then he can change his accent. I said, cool. I extended it to 1850 when I was doing the flashbacks, but that worked for me. So it was kind of, you know, dealing with an accent was always an issue. What role would I have wanted to do if I didn't do it?
No, producing, directing.
Sorry, say that again?
Producing, directing, what other roles in the industry would you like to do?
What role would I mean, directing, I love directing. Actually, I'm just finishing the rewrite. I will be finishing the rewrite on the script, but I'm hoping to direct early next year. We already have some timing put to it. It's a true story based in Hungary about a place called the House of Terror. You guys can look it up. It's a true place where between 1944 and 1956, over 4,000 people were tortured and killed in this place. And it's a museum today. It's based in a true story. So, I'm working on that one. So that's something. But producing, anyway, it's a totally different thing. It's tough to get money, but I like to be the artsy side most of the time.
While admittedly I don't have an A in my last name, I'm McLeod by birth, so I feel like I have some sort of connection with the show. But Duncan was always, he had those different periods that he went through, but seemed to be the moral character that did the right thing. And you mentioned it's the Highlander, so with either ties to McLeod or just from the scripts that you were given and what Duncan had to choose to do, what did you learn either through him or through what you had to pour into the role, that really sort of became inspirational and a part of your life that either made you a harder worker or anything like that?
Well, I think we all have something in us that pushes us forward. Hard working, I've always been that. But Cloud's sense of moral right and wrong, whether it was linear or whether, Amanda was always trying to push him off into one side, but who he was really inspired me and changed me as a person as well, because you do that. A very good acting teacher told me a long time ago, as you change as an actor, you will change as a person, and as you change as a person, you will change as an actor. And in reality, I think this was able to propel me into creating the Peace Fund, because the things that he did really made me. We all have dreams in life. When I was a kid, I always thought I wanted two things. I wanted to date a lot of women all over the world. That worked. And I wanted to help kids. It's always been something. I always wanted to do something that would have a lasting effect. And when I realized I had Highlander, it gave me, and Dr. McLeod gave me the fact of seeing a lot of people affected by what I did, and I thought, well, if I can do that, so can a lot of other people. So I started Peace based on that idea, and it's called Protect, Educate, Aid Children Everywhere. So that really gave me, it spurred me into doing that. So I'm so thankful, because without that, it would have taken me on a different route in my life.
Just wanted to ask, you got to take part in a lot of actual events that happened in history, the Valkyrie conspiracy, fighting in World War I, and different things that really happened you got to be a part of on the show. And I was just wondering what your favorite event in history that you got to be a part of, something that really happened. What was your favorite?
Well, obviously the plot to kill Hitler was kind of like a predominantly interesting evil against good episode. For me personally, I think also the Byron episode was really cool, because here's an entity who was a real figure who is now going to be made into an immortal and create a world where he may have been that character. And we created, what I liked about that was the poetry side of him, the art side of him that wasn't in the scripts originally when I directed it. So as a director, for me to be able to create that was real fun, because he was a real person. You gave me, this is off this subject, but I just got a flash for a second of a moment we shot in the first season when we were doing a flashback in 1917, 1918 in World War I, and that we had this whole setup. One of the issues when you're dealing with explosives is that you want to make sure that you're safe. And that really depends on the person that's pulling the trigger and where he's putting the explosives. So we'd done all that stuff in Vancouver, and then we were going to Paris. And this was a new guy that we'd never worked before. He said, they're half choices. We had these explosions. The idea was, I was coming out of the back of the truck, suddenly there was a bombing. So it was like, explosion here, explosion there when the stunt guy goes falling, explosion here, and I duck and go through and end up behind a wheelbarrow or whatever it was I ducked behind. And we said to the guy prior to that, this is going to be safe. Make sure it's, oh yes, no problem, it's a half charges, right? Half charges. Oh, yeah, half charges. So literally, they call, okay, ready, everybody gets into positions, they get action, and suddenly goes, action, and boom, this thing went off. Boom, the stunt guy nearly died because he got blown off the thing. There was smoke everywhere. I couldn't see where I was going. I could have walked straight into one of those explosions. So it was like, that was a favourite episode, but it looked great. But, you know, I had to do the retake. I got fired after that. But, I mean, you know, because it was dangerous, because really, I could not see anything, so I could have walked right into one of the explosions that was going off. I had no idea where I was going.
To start off with, I've been a martial artist for several decades now. And quite frankly, I honestly owe a lot of that to you, because it was actually watching that show, and not just the sword fighting scenes, but any of the hand-to-hand fight choreography that actually helped me keep focused during my early days of training. And it actually just prompted me to be curious about your background as far as what styles that you actually studied, what got you interested in that particular, you know, art form. What were your precursors to that?
Well, as a young boy, I always had a temper. I'm Italian, what can I tell you? And, you know, I started doing Taekwondo, kickboxing more than anything when I first started. And then when I got into Highlander, I really took Hungar Kung Fu. And Hungar is a flowy form, which I actually enjoy, but it's also very strong. It's a very tough, you know, it's a hands-on form. It's not very like the other wushu, or it's a different style. It's much more aggressive, and that kind of fit me. And a lot of people have actually come up to me and said, you know, I want to take martial arts, or they have done in the past. What style do you think I should take? And I said, you've got to go and choose yourself what you feel like. You have to know how you feel, whether it's karate, tai chi, taekwondo, Hungar Kung Fu, whatever that is. It's what you understand and whatever you move like. Because my teacher said to me, the human body only moves one way. Your elbow is only going to go this way. It really depends on how you decide to break that elbow or manipulate it in how you know you do that. So in reality, it's a personal thing of how you actually choose that martial art.
Hello. I want to say I love you.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I went to yesterday's panel is I have a suggestion for something we could do is a one-man show for all of the accents and the impressions that you do.
You know, I did a tape years ago because I did an answering tape for a telephone machine. I did all these different characters on it. And it went down pretty well, actually. Maybe I'll do something that I can put it for the Peace Fund or something. It'd be kind of fun to actually, you know, do something of that nature. Thank you. I don't know where to take that question.
My question also has to do with accents. You did so many of the Scottish brogue at the beginning, received pronunciation, your normal accent. Did you have a dialect coach, or is that just all your natural talent? And if so, how do you do that? It's incredible.
You know, accents aren't as hard as you think. I mean, you know, John Barrowman, who I did it with last night, he's Scottish. And you would never believe that he had a Scottish accent. I didn't know, because I actually was looking at the Scottish accent just recently, because I was going out for a role on something, and I just wanted to brush up on it. And I saw that he was actually Scottish. I saw the tape, and I went, oh my gosh. And it's really how you restructure your tonality. I mean, to do certain accents, it's really a placement of where you put the accent itself. Australian, for instance, you have to understand a Cockney accent. Cockney accents talk like this, they're all like that, but then when you get into Australian, it's talking in this way, because it goes into the back of the throat. So you've got to understand where the things and the formulation of them happen. Some are harder for me to do than others. You know, it's just, you know, but you do have a dialect coach at one point, but then it became something that I grew up in England, and, you know, from a real eye, we were always making fun of the Scots, you know. the Irish, yeah. There's a lot of Irish jokes in England, you know. So, you know, we would always do that. So you kind of got, like, I got brought up on it, you know. So it's kind of fun. I mean, when I did Captain Drake, I don't know if any of you have seen that one, The Immortal Voyages of Captain Drake. That was so much fun to do. But he came from the West Side, and so we come from Cornwall. I kind of based it in the Cornish accent, which is our, like, that type of thing, you know, because they come from there, and that's where the Buccaneers came from. So that's where you kind of put that accent. And that made me go, oh, this is a comedy, it's not and it changed the way that I looked at the piece. So I think accents are really important.
Good afternoon. Earlier you mentioned the movie reboot. What if, hypothetically, they were to do a television series reboot and you had the ability to choose who were to play your character going forward? Would it be?
TV series today, they tend to pick a lot of unknowns. So I would think they would have a very large casting. They would first of all think, well, maybe we can actually get somebody to fill those shoes. I don't know. I mean, it really depends, because when I cast for Highlander itself, I actually had seen the posters for Highlander 2 in a casting office about 6 months prior, and I said, I'm going to do something with that. And I knew I was kind of right for it just because I was kind of a mixed child. I was kind of, you know, an English Italian living in America. I had a weird accent, and then and I fit that kind of role. A friend of mine had said that to me before. He said, you want to find a role that actually fits you, that has that mixed type of thing. So to find somebody like that, when I did the initial casting for it, there were 5 or 6 of us that they chose to do the screen test for. And they chose me in the end, which I was thankful for it, but they could have gone a different way with it. So I don't know what my choice would be, because there's a lot of good actors, good young actors out there now that could do this role, but would he fit all those criteria? They didn't know I could do a lot of sword fighting when I first did the show. They just cast me as an actor. Don't worry, the stunt doubles that could do it. So it's, you know, it changed.
Do you have a short list of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people?
Do you? No, I don't either. I don't.
Hello, I'm so glad that you're here. I waited a very long time to see you. I got into Define Young Cannibals because of the guest star. I admit. Which guest star was your favorite that you absolutely, seriously geeked over and you got to know that character better as an actor because you got to meet them for the first time?
Roger Daltrey. You know, I grew up with a Lou and Tommy, I'm English, you know, so, you know, Field Me, etc. Was something I grew up with, and, you know, when Roger came on, I'm like, hey, Roger, how you doing? All right, mate, I'm all right. And he's so easy to work with. And I was like really taken aback because you think, oh, it's Roger Daltrey, he's going to have a bit of an attitude. But he wasn't, he didn't. And he was such a joy. We had so many fun days on the set that was a real pleasant surprise. So I think he would be the one.
My wife is very happy you're here today.
Where's your wife?
She's right over there.
Hi.
I was wondering, are there any actors or actresses that you wish had been able to make a guest appearance on the show? Either because it's somebody you really like to have worked with, or somebody you thought, yeah, I'd really like to cut his head off.
Because this would be all cool, like, if I could tell you that, I think he would be very good on the show, but he was already dead. He would have been very interesting. Sean Connery, obviously, would be, that was the last impression. He would have been a very interesting person to have on the show. At the time, obviously, there were other actors that you know, there were no actors today that were around there then, so there were quite a few. I mean, I'd love to work with Al Pacino, but he wasn't going to do Highlander. I actually met him once, and I was sitting down. He was not very tall, and I was sitting down like this, and he came in, and I got up, and he goes, "Don't get up." I was like, okay. I remember that one party that I went to, was an after-Oscar party. There was Clint Eastwood in there. There was so many stars. I was like, wow. And you watched them on screen and they walked in the door. It was kind of like, you know, and that was before, actually, that was just during the first season of Highlander that I got that. So it was kind of intimidating. But some of these people, you know, they're idols. I mean, Meryl Streep is one of my favorite actresses. I really don't. She doesn't do characters. She becomes the spirit of the character. I don't know how she does this. She's amazing. And there are some fantastic other actresses out there today that I still would like to work with.
Highlander was like the first DVD box that I started collecting, so thank you for creating that monster.
Say that again.
Highlander was the first DVD box set series that I collected, so thank you for creating that monster. I also enjoyed Alien Tracker, and I was curious, I can't find it. I don't even know if it's on the pilot on DVD, but I was curious if you had any fond memories from doing that series that you wanted to share and that you could share.
Well, fond memories would be what I call it. You know, Tracker was right in the middle of when it was syndicated TV was going into the toilet. And, you know, today you fund movies, or the distribution of movies and TV series are done on entirely different platforms, purely and simply because you've got the internet. It was so everything's changing. Tracker at the time, my feeling on Tracker was that it was going along the lines of let's catch the bad guy of the week, which was not really what I thought would make a success, because I'd done that in War of the Worlds, and I'd also seen it happen in other series, but catching the bad guy of the week, unless you're dealing with a procedural show, doesn't work as well, because it's about the characters that you're following each day. And I think those are the important things you have to look at. So there were issues, and then we didn't have enough money, didn't have enough time. You know, the scripts didn't come out as well as I wanted them to. So there were issues for me personally on Tracker that it eventually started finding its feet. But it was the same thing with Highlander. If the syndicated market hadn't dropped as much, it may have done what Highlander did, because Highlander was not going to be on the second season. It was going to drop. Originally, Highlander was France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and I think America as a co-production deal. And 2 or 3 of the partners fell out. So they didn't have the money or the wherewithal. Then they restructured it and made it a French-Canadian co-production so they could deal with the tax credits. So that allowed Highlander to move forward. Otherwise it wouldn't have happened. So with Tracker, I think it was a monetary thing and a production problem for them that it didn't go forward. So I was told that was my last question. Fabulous. That's you want more? Sure, one more.
What is your favorite confession?
I haven't before. I have been to quite a few cons this year in the past 2-3 years. And this one has been so well run. It has been, the people have been so nice and so kind to me. Thank you. So with that, I will just leave you with the only one.